Hi, everyone. Welcome to the TimingResearch.com Analyze Your Trade, episode number 123 for April 14th, 2020. My name is David Kosmeter. I'm the creator of TimingResearch.com, and today we will be discussing your trade ideas. So over the last few days, about 50 people submitted up to 5 symbols each, and I've put the list together, and we're going to go through as many of those as we can today. So today I have arranged for Anka Metcalf of Trade Out Loud and Jim, the option professor of optionprofessor.com to join us. And Jim will be moderating. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jim now.
Okay, thanks a lot, David. And again, another big rally on the upside here as people continue to plow into tech, and they plow into semiconductors, and they plow into the discretionary consumer discretionaries, which means they're plowing into the high beta areas. And so we're going to go over a lot of different details here and a lot of great stocks on the list this week. But before we get started, Anka Metcalf is here with us, and she's going to give a quick background on herself and what she's doing down at her company. Anka?
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you, David, for having me here today. So for those of you that are new, have not heard me before, my name is Anka Metcalf, and I'm the CEO and founder of TradeOutLoud.com, which is a trading education firm that is specialized in educating individuals how to day trade and swing trade the futures and the equities market. I day trade futures only 2 hours in the morning, and I trade only the New York trading session. And I also swing trade futures for the rest of the day, obviously, and swing trade stocks. It's actually what I love doing the most. And I have been doing this professionally for the last 17 years. Prior to becoming a professional independent trader, I come with 10 plus years in investment banking. And I'm the designer of an institutional proprietary trading system that is based on simple price support resistance. However, I'm focused on 7 layers of price support resistance that I use in Confluence to determine precise buy zones or sell zones or even target areas. For day trading, I use specific trigger times and specific price zones, and I also use chart synchronicity and divergency. Perfect example today where we had NASDAQ with relative strength, and we had Russell that was actually really weak today. And also, I have a strict set of trading rules that I abide by and a 10-point scoring system to identify trades with ease.
So there's quite a bit that you're going to be able to provide. At the end of the broadcast, people can get a hold of you and find out exactly what's going on as far as what they can do to participate with you as well. You made a good point regarding time frames, because Tuesdays and Thursdays I've noticed over the years have been turnaround days sometimes, and today was no exception. And I think last Tuesday was another big turnaround day. Have you found Tuesdays to Thursdays to be significant as far as turning?
Absolutely. And I think that we're not the only ones. I think that everybody's discussing that if we should have like a flat Monday or a relative weak Monday, Tuesday is definitely a turnaround day. And actually yesterday, I was looking at the market, and basically we have been ranging in the last 3 days or so, 3 trading days or so. And we had the European markets that were closed yesterday, so we had very little participation in the futures market, so we didn't have that influx into a continuation into the U.S. markets. But the reality is that off of this range-bound market came turnaround Tuesday to the rescue again. So yeah, definitely I did. I am noticing this. And yesterday, by the way, those consolidation days, I call them confuse everybody day, because we were up and down and up and down and up and down. And we were just testing the levels, pinching a little bit higher with the periscope high, then poking a little bit support with the peekaboo low. So it was a bit difficult trading environment from the day trading perspective. But obviously, Tuesdays are becoming more and more turnaround Tuesdays. So yes.
Yeah, I noticed that in China, the smartphones were minus 22% on the imports for March, but the Apple phones were up 18%. And that might have also given the tech and the semis and those kind of things a little bit of a underpinning, because they definitely have outperformed some of the other ones here today,
I did catch that news later in the day today, and yes, and it makes a little bit of sense. Also, Apple is up nicely today, gapped up, and pretty much never looked back. So it's just continuing higher. So very nice positioning in Apple, in fact, from that 3-day consolidation, actually 4-day kind of like consolidation, wider range from the 4-day, but now it's peaking above, closed above the 50 SMA. So I don't know, perhaps it has a little bit of more juice to it.
Yeah. The earnings obviously going to start coming out, and today they came out on a couple of banks, and obviously their earnings just basically, went way down. I think it was 57% drop in what do you call it, in JP Morgan, and
JP Morgan.
Wells Fargo had 1 penny of earnings, which was like 95% lower than expected. So and they're all pumping up their loan reserves in case they have bad debts coming in which they're anticipating. So again, at some point, the market does have to price it based on earnings and valuations, and as these numbers come in, we'll have to see what happens. Do you ever look at the CAPE ratio, which is the way Shiller kind of takes the 10 years of earnings and then smooths it out to kind of give you more of a balance of different economic cycles?
I don't. Yes, I don't.
That's an interesting way to look at it, so you don't get too hung up on a 2-month deal or a 1-quarter or 2-quarter deal, and you get an idea of the entire trend for the 10 years when you're trying to do a P ratio kind of a comparison. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's talk about the S&P that we're on here, because if we can put the S&P back up, and then we'll get into the specific stocks that are requested. I was noticing this 2850 area was the low of I guess sometime in March or end of February. Yeah, you see there. And I was thinking that might be a resistance zone on the throwback rally. How do you feel about that?
I feel the same way. It is this prior support level that really creates a lot of minor resistance into this point right here. But I think we had a pretty solid close here. So going into tomorrow, but again, this is a big if. So we have to see how earnings are going to start coming out, but definitely, technically speaking, this should be an area where we should see a little bit of a pullback. If I would have seen a doji into this area, I would have thought more that we may get a bearish towards an inside day tomorrow, or at least start being a little bit more bearish so we can start turning around. But this strong close right here, I mean, we still have a little bit of juice right here into this 50 SMA, and we have this other little candle to the left-hand side here from March 6th that coincides, overlaps with this 50 SMA. So that coincides with that 2900 level right here. So it should be around into this area. It would be very interesting to see, because if we have another day like this, we can probably close above this 50 SMA. So we're going to have to wait and see. Technically speaking, a strong close like today should promote higher price action going into tomorrow, even though we are sitting into resistance here. And we had a very, very strong close into the futures today. So very, very strong, with new highs in S&P for the week and for the day, obviously, and for the week. So very strong breakout that we had in the overnight trading session. I mean, we woke up this morning to a 4-hour rally already. It was very hard to get in day trades short term, knowing that the trigger happened at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, the 200-day average is a little bit above 3,000, and a 61.8% throwback from the 3,400 and 2,200 area is around the same number. So it'll be interesting if they stretch it up to that number, if that might be that might be more of a stretch point than where we are here. And then Thursday coming up, it would be interesting to see what happens tomorrow, and then if there's any possibility for a rollover in Thursday, huh?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it would be very interesting to see how things are going to line up here. it's definitely a day-by-day cases, and this is how I have been trading, day trading and swing trading. I took it like one day at a time, monitor the action in the overnight trading session, being very diligent about, my trailing stops. And I have to tell you, like, I had some trades I literally choked into last week before before we went into the long weekend. I closed profits on Costco and Walmart, and I think I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have done that. But I really trailed it very, very, very tight.
You're right.
Yeah, because I didn't want to get complacent on this move. I mean, we were reaching, and like you said, we were reaching this area, and by the time we were here, so I took the decision, hey, you know what, this is a 50% measured move. We can actually continue to go lower from this point on. So yeah, very, better.
Well, this has been a good opportunity for you, because with the VIX in the 40s, that represents about a 3% volatility on the underlying market, because for every 16 points on the VIX, it's a 1% variance. So if it's 32, you could expect a 2% move in the index. At 45, you're looking at 3%. And if you've noticed, the market's been moving about 3% up or down. So when you're doing the short-term trading like you're talking about, you certainly have opportunities every day, because the volatility is just fantastic.
Oh, it has been amazing. Yesterday, we had actually a really big trade in gold. So outside of indices, yeah. But definitely we have been having some really great, amazing opportunities. Literally, we have been having like almost swing trading targets and day trades, which is
exactly. Yeah.
incredible.
So if you are doing short-term trading, obviously you need volatility to try to make some money. And ergo, you're getting it in spades in the last month. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, let's start hitting the list here and go over one at a time. There's a couple of what people call virus stocks, which are stocks that did extremely well because of the fact that people started using their products because of the virus. One's Teladoc, and the other one is here Zoom, which I guess they had 10 million users in December, and now they got 200 million users, which is just enormous. But the question is has that been discounted, and will there be competition? Some people think Zoom is the best device for these type of conferences or meetings. How do you feel about Zoom right now?
We are Zoom users, and I have been using Zoom for the last couple of years. Very happy with it. Before Zoom, I used to use WebEx, which I think is provided by Cisco, if I'm not mistaken. And I also was a client of Webinato, former Webinato, former Omnovia. So there are a plethora of webinar jams. So there are so many softwares out there. And I was asking myself the same question: why is this Zoom so popular? I mean, what caught the attention of this specific platform that launched it into the stratosphere so much? I don't know, cloud-based. I mean, I really don't know what the deal is with Zoom.
Some people tell me that there's an ease of use with Zoom that it makes it very popular. And I do know people, we're using it as a business situation, but a lot of people are using it for just inter-family communications.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that might be it. And when you compare Zoom to the Cisco product, do you find the Zoom ease of use to be a little bit better? Or?
It is. It's very easy to use, and I have to give them credit for this. No software to install, and one of the biggest advantages is that you could have like a really big chat room where you can type in, and you could actually see all the Q&As and everything. So it's really awesome from that perspective. But I was a very happy client of Webinato, and they had, of course, they're a little bit more pricier. And I think that this is where Zoom comes in, because it's so affordable, so affordable. So for the price point in Zoom is just incredible, and the versatility. So yeah, but still there are so many, there's Skype, there's You have Facebook chat now, and Messenger, and there are so many opportunities to interact with individuals these days, with family and friends.
Well, your charts here look great. In other words, obviously you don't want to be buying it above 160 on that kind of a run.
Yeah,
But boy,
yeah.
did you get a nice opportunity at testing that moving average line around the 110 area, and you could have loaded up there, and now you're back in the race, huh?
Well, let me tell you something. So on Sunday night, I sent out a newsletter and I informed my traders that I like it over 126. And I was not able, it happened so fast when we opened yesterday, and it happened so fast, it just zipped back, it just zipped up. I wasn't able to get into the trade, and I was never able to pinpoint the exact entry and send it to my traders.
Right.
But look at this beautiful move right here. So we have a weekly reversal off of the 10 EMA, nice rooting into this area right here. And if you look at these lows, they coincide with these prior highs right here into the 107, 108. So that's a really nice shelf of support and a reload area. So I was watching this like a hawk. Unfortunately, I wasn't very fast enough on the buttons to.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of fast market stuff going on. I think the main thing also is your premonition was correct.
Yeah, exactly. But it was definitely super fast. This is before the market opened. It was trading already yesterday into the 132. Now remember the 125. Look, it just came for a nanosecond here into the 127, and then it took off. So it happened super fast. But definitely, I wouldn't want to be a buyer right now. I think this doji here is a little bit problematic into this cluster of resistance. I don't know if things are going to turn around here, probably retest the 20 SMA or this prior peak high into the 130 level. But definitely, if it's going to rotate back into the 130s, I would watch for a daily reversal. But the weekly is getting so extended, so I think it's already into motion. So I wouldn't stalk it, to try to jump in right now. For me, it's just already done. So I think that whomever got in on that nice signal here into the 125 level already had booked massive, massive profits, and they want. And in fact, this doji candle tells me that they're easing out. They have eased out already from the position from that weekly reversal, which was fabulous, by the way. Really nice candle build up from last week, and it was really nice. Even the daily structure was nice, but definitely now it needs to reshuffle and try to find a new kind of setup for it.
Yeah, the highs of the previous in 2019 was right around 90 to 100. So you could have actually bought it against the 110 and put a stop under 90, because in this kind of stock, you're going to have to give it room because it's volatile.
Oh yeah, very volatile.
And it's a bull market. They say buy the dips on a bull market, and that was the dip, right?
Definitely.
How about,
And we wrote it. Yeah, we wrote it a couple of weeks ago. So we took advantage of some of this portion right here. And totally missed from this side. It happened way too fast. It was just for a nanosecond it was not even at my price, but it was a little bit that pullback. It came in nanosecond, boom, and back up. So there was literally no reaction time for it.
The other one, Teladoc, TDOC, and has pretty much the same pattern. It pulled back to 135, which probably is like the 50-day moving average. Yeah, same idea. And now it's trying to go, and whether it's going to be able to do it or not, but it's a very similar pattern, huh?
Exactly. And nice weekly pullback to the 10 exponential, reversal into the 150, 180 with confirmation. There you have it into the 160. It's probably going to run higher. So it does seem like it wants to revisit the 117 time. But again, it's extended, so I wouldn't chase it right now.
Right. And again, if we're going to restart the economy and people are going to get moving again, possibly some of these things that they were using so heavily will not be used. And they certainly have got a very high valuation at this point. So there's some risk to the fact that, we restart the economy, a little less Zoom, a little less Teladoc, and a little less of this stuff while it's extended could be dangerous.
Absolutely. I agree. And these are coronavirus kind of stocks. Everybody had them on their watch list, the TDOCs, the Zooms, all of these semiconductor stocks. And in fact, I think that, if you look at charts, NASDAQ was the leader, and it was basically all of these semiconductor stocks, the tech stocks that didn't allow the market to drop as much because they were holding on so strongly as everything else was like literally screaming lower. We had NASDAQ going obviously in sync with the rest of the indices, but it was going like in sort of slow motion. It was not accelerating like the Dow or the mini S&P. Well, we know what the issue with the Dow was, because that was Boeing, but definitely it was not, it was like running slowly, level to level.
Yeah, I think people were saying, listen, whether we are going to be locked up or not, technology is not going away. In fact, if we are locked up, technology is even going to be more important. So we're not going to throw out our gold coins with the junk coins, you know. Well, the next one here is, rain or shine type stock, Microsoft, MSFT. And of course, it had a nice big pullback from 190 to 130 area. And now obviously it's gained back $40 of that. And what do we think from here?
From here, well, it's obviously into some resistance from the beginning of March. We see these tails right here into the 174s to 175s. But hey, you know what? As long as the market is still going to go higher, I think that Microsoft is still going to start going full throttle into these prior highs. Do we have an entry right now? No, I think that the entry was around this 50 SMA into the 145 and to the 150 for sure. So if you miss the signal from these prior lows, from these prior highs right here and into these lows, into the 140s, 150 was your second bet into it. And again, with volatility, you had these, you pretty much have these really wide risk levels. And that was a concern for a lot of traders, because they would go like, hey, okay, where am I going to put my stop? You know, if you're a swing trader, if you're on the investing side, then it's still not a bad area to add to your trade. If you were in Microsoft from a previous trade, this was a reload opportunity for you to bring your average. If you got it, let's say on an explosive move here into the 170s, if you were late to the party, this pullback offered you the opportunity to average down your cost and make more money on this move. But Microsoft is a perfect example of how the market held. I mean, if we look at the SPX, or if we look at NASDAQ, we could see down, 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 down moves. And then when the rotation happened, right, we're into the 50 SMA, right? Well, take a look at where the 50 SMA is here on the weekly. So the 50 SMA is way behind. So you have the structural support all the way behind and above, definitely below the price action. And you came out of all of those moving averages, and the price is literally pushing higher compared to, so I just want to bring here very, very quickly, let's say the comp, whoops. There we go. All right, so we can see here the comp. Let me just take these out. Okay, and you can see how it went down, 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 right? So it hooked into the 200 SMA, and then it caught back up. However, and again, NASDAQ is one of the strongest, right? But take a look at where the price is trading in relation to the 50 SMA. Take a look at where the price is trading to the 20 SMA. And putting this into perspective, and this is still a weekly chart, and now Microsoft, MSFT, okay? And take a look, whoops, sorry. MSFT, there we go. All right, so take a look at where the moving averages are. So it's literally trading into the clear, blue sky above. So I think that possibly, I don't think that Microsoft is going to be affected, and it's not literally affected by coronavirus. It just obviously it pulled back, right, when the market was pulling back on selling pressure, on panic selling, because that was the situation then, right? It was a lot of panic. But this is the type of stock, this is sort of like a safe haven, right? All of these stocks are sort of like safe haven, not the Zoom, but I would say Microsoft more than Zoom. This is sort of like a safe haven. And yeah, I think that any pullback in Microsoft would be buyable. today's move was incredible. If you look at it on the one hour structure, it was incredible. Huge breakout over 169, pushed into the 174 almost. Take a look at this tail. There's an indication of really strong buyers here. Like this is a really heavy push to the upside.
All right, let's switch over to the next one, and that is going to be Facebook. And there are those who believe that if ad spending is cut back, because obviously people have to conserve their cash, then Google and Facebook may not, they may be affected by it, but today it certainly wasn't, up at 178. What do you see on Facebook here?
On Facebook, I see the exact same thing that we talked about, the SPX and the low from February 28th that is affecting the price right now. And the price got a little bit rejected, so it came right into this minor resistance level deriving from this prior low, and the price got rejected. So we're seeing the price punching a little lower, leaving this dojo. I think that tomorrow, if we trade below 176, I think that we could start the pullback at least to the 170, and 170 is going to tell us whether this is going to be a shorter term pullback with the rotation, if the price is going to continue higher, and if we're going to get the second higher low right here, because we have the low, we have the first higher low, and then this would be the second higher low. And this may potentially create that second leg that may be able to sustain another move up. But if not, from this chart pattern, exactly, this is more carbon copying the comp, the Qs, pattern, NASDAQ pattern, because we have high, and pretty much we had, and this is the first time around, this is the first time when that virus became, first numbers from China were coming out. I think it was like January 24th when things got a little bit more serious with coronavirus, and this was the first gap. And then we had earnings and the market started to push higher again, and this is where everything fell apart here. So more and more cases, end of February. So we had cases in Washington state, and et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm looking at right here, because this could be like an A, B, C, D leg down, and
Right.
then this is the reversal. So this could be the A, B, and this could be the C leg. And it all depends on where the C leg is, because if we rotate here, this could start pushing much further lower, but time will tell if that's going to happen. So I really don't know, how this area is going to react here. And we don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, this is the most bizarre earnings season that we're ever going to live, because we really don't know if these stocks that have just reported earnings, even the Wells Fargo or the JP Morgan that reported, I mean, they're trying to bottom out temporarily right now. They're trying to bottom out. Are they going to find buyers? If they're going to find buyers, and my bias is that if we're going to have strong financials, I think that the market is going to start continuing higher. If not, if more and more banks are going to report earnings, and I think if we get weak earnings, then probably we're going to start pulling in a little bit more. And I think that the next time around on this weak structure that we have, the next time around, this leg lower, this is really going to break below this low right here. It can really start crashing. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Take it one day at a time.
Yeah, on the big drop, it seemed like it was sell the rumor that stay in place was going to happen. And then once we stayed in place, boom, that was buy the fact. And now there's a rumor that we're going to restart the economy, and it's being bid up. And maybe it'll be sell the fact when they actually do it. So it'll be interesting to see if it's going to be that buy the rumor, sell the fact, like it was sell the rumor, buy the fact when we went down, huh?
It's going to be very interesting. It's very unique. And I think that we're so privileged to see this firsthand happen in the market, because nobody alive has ever seen or lived a pandemic.
Exactly. All right. The next guy on the list is going to be Apple. And that had, again, the big move today, due in part because of that China data that came out that showed iPhones jumped 18% in March over there. And obviously a nice solid 5% move to the upside. But what do we see here in Apple?
I see an Apple close above the 50 SMA. So this to me is screaming very, very strong. We also had a continuation. I want to bring the weekly. We also had a very nice continuation from last week, punching a little bit lower, slingshot all the way to this 20 SMA. We had a very strong close today. And in fact, just now, right after the market closed, it pulled back to the 10 EMA on the 1 hour, and then it got that lift just like Microsoft did with that big, huge bottoming tail. So that suggests that there is still buying pressure coming in from the hourly, and we may get a continuation higher in Apple. We may get a continuation higher, at least into the 300. So tomorrow is going to be the day when we're pretty much going to have a clue of in regards to continuation patterns, because we have really strong closes on the day. And typically, if you get a strong close, if you issue a continuation into the next day, then you're pretty much off to the races again for the let's say for at least another 1 to 2 days. So yeah, I think there is still potential for the 300. However, we cannot ignore the fact that we're trading into this 20 SMA that's going to halt the velocity a little bit, in my opinion. The daily chart, I think it's still into the clear. It just cleared this morning, was the perfect example. It cleared the 50 SMA. The fact that it closed so much above the 50 SMA, this is, again, a really strong indication that it may want to continue into these highs. And remember, we were talking about that February 28th low. It had to digested really well the February 28th low. So take a look at what happened here. So we were concerned, in Microsoft that, Microsoft, we were talking about Facebook, right? Just before Apple, and Facebook again, was trading into that February low right here. Well, Apple didn't seem to have, much issue with this low right here, and it just broke above. It digested a little bit, but broke above. So my bias is that it still has a continuation pattern into the 300. However, it does not have an entry right now. So if you're in, I would trail it tight. I would use the 50 SMA as my trail stop for it. I would definitely, as it's running higher over the 290s and into the 290s, I would take some profits along the way, just scale all the way and leave a last lot into the 300s or maybe more if it decides. But I think that the big level in Apple is going to be the 300. We have these two tops right here. Plus, we have this prior low from the beginning of February. So this is going to be the biggest resistance in Apple. The 300 over 300. That's my take on it.
Apple and Microsoft have something in common in that as people plow money back into these index funds and they have to rebalance that 60-40 portfolio because it got out of whack when it went way down. Obviously, these indexes are full of the top two holdings are generally Apple and Microsoft. So, people buy into this stock regardless if the money's coming into the ETFs, and it's been plowing into the ETFs at a pretty big pace in the last week or so.
Yeah.
So that's another factor. Okay, so next one up is going to be Salesforce CRM, and that's had a little bit of a bounce as well. Again, more like a Facebook bounce as opposed to an Apple or a Microsoft bounce.
I think that CRM is into resistance, lot of resistance here. So it closed just into this 200 SMA. It has this overhead resistance from the 50 SMA as well. And it has this range that started in October, end of October, with this bottoming of the range here into the 154 all the way into the 165-ish area. So I'm talking about this range right here. And the bottom of this range is definitely putting some pressure on price. I would have liked to see somewhat of a close above the 200 SMA right here for a continuation higher. And I think that even from the weekly perspective, it still has tons of resistance from these prior highs. Look at the grind that we have here. So this is February 2018 right here. So this is 2018, 2019. So this is, again, a lot of resistance into the same area. Now, the question is it going to digest this area? We were off with on a very good start. And basically, we're trading in the motion of this weekly rotation that punched into the 200 SMA, double bottom right here. So this was a really nice buy off the 200 SMA. And then again here, we're still trading into that. So we got the initial move up. The price got rejected the next day, the next week. And then we had a nice, pretty much kind of like an inside price. And then again, rotation, continuation this week, yesterday and today, right? And we're stuck into this. So we have been trying to consolidate and digest this level before punching higher. But I think if we trade over 159, 159.50, 160, this is off to the races again into the 165. So it has about a $5 still move into it, but it's all up to see how this flat, this is too much of a flat 200 SMA. This is like, hit the brakes, you know, we don't know, we have to make sure that we digest this area. So I would watch for a range bound action, either on the daily chart or on the 4-hour chart to see, or even on the hourly chart if you want to start legging in, if you don't want to miss the punch over 159. So this is definitely something that I would watch and again, take it with small targets, 162, 163, and then 165, which is coming from the weekly chart.
Yeah, this is a company that's high valuation, so it'll be interesting to see if the high valuation stocks will stick as much as the Microsofts and the Apples, because if when we come back, these companies cut their spending on this, that, or the other, that they don't feel is 100% necessary, then a company that needs a lot of revenue to keep their valuation going, you know, that would be at risk at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, let's go to Lululemon.
Lulu. Everybody's wearing athletic wear.
At least they hope they are.
At least they
I just saw Adidas took a $3.3 billion line of credit to keep going and cut their dividend. So some of the athletic stuff isn't doing quite as well. But what do you think about this guy?
I think this guy is confronted with the same type of flat 200 SMA here. So it may be ready to punch higher. And my thought on that is we had the drop, we had the pullback. The price was trying to digest this area. It came back. And I love this pullback. It got caught by the 20 SMA, really nice rotation price action here, came back to retest this area. And you can see that the price is really trying to condensate into that 200 SMA. And of course, these moving averages are going to carry a lot of weight right now. But the more we have this consolidation into these areas, I think that they're ready to punch higher. One of my guides is the weekly chart. So I think that today what happened was we actually, at the beginning of the trading session, I was watching it this morning, actually at 10 o'clock, it made this little peekaboo high. And I think it's really setting up for a really nice motion, at least into the 215 to 220 area. So I think it's higher. Lululemon looks like it. But again, due to the volatility, we have very sloppy patterns. So if you're used to like trading like really nice textbook kind of patterns, you're not going to get that. And the risk levels are going to be very elevated for all of these stocks.
Yeah, consumer discretionary is a very exciting area. And the three things I think that most, or the government probably hopes, is that the stimulus check combined with returning to work, combining with the wealth effect being improved because the stock market will give the consumer a get up and go situation. And then, of course, the consumer spending on discretionaries like Lululemon would be a beneficiary at that point. That's,
Yep.
you know, like I say, if the plan of, you know, going back to work, throwing a stimulus check at somebody, and also their stock portfolio went up, gets the vibe out there that things are okay, go out and spend some money.
And I know that Nike is not on the list, but Nike has a similar pattern. So you can see right here, they're still trying to push a little bit above this area.
Possibly. What do you think?
I think I'm on the same page with you. And actually, about 2 weeks ago, I was almost calling this as a short under, oops, sorry about that. Okay, so I was almost calling it short under 164, and I didn't. And I saw it move up and then back down here, and it's still lingering into that 164 level. I think this is going to go a little bit lower, but it's taking its time, and it's going in a very grindy fashion. But I think that this 10 EMA is like really calling the price. It really wants to get into this 160, and this is the 20-year. bond. When I trade the futures bond because I have to, I really love the handle of having control over it into the 24-hour market. But definitely on the daily chart. So after this little, let's call it doji here, but we came in to the 10 EMA, 10 EMA didn't hold. We didn't rotate to the upside, and we kind of had inside, and today again inside. So we're having a lot of indecision here into the 20s, into the 20 SMA. So my bias for bonds is that I would love to have them a little bit, I would love to have a short in them, and I see them lower, but I don't really have like a really great entry on it as of right now.
Yeah, and it might be a situation where it just meanders in a range for a while, you know, which is probably the most likely. But the idea that the stimulus and getting everybody to spend and get everybody out there doing stuff, and the deficits exceeding the GDP, you know, at some point in time, you know, if the gold gets above 1,800 and 2,000, you know, looking for lower rates might be looking for Godot, you know.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Let's go to BLK and see what's going on with BLK, BlackRock. You know, they're the inside deal because the Fed went to them on March 23rd and said, help us buy ETFs and help us buy mortgages and whatever. And the next thing you know, they're buying junk bonds. So that meeting would have been a good one to be in on, as Larry Fink was explaining what he wanted the Fed to do. But anyway, they've rebounded back up. And they certainly got a bid out of the Fed because most of their products were without a bid because, you know, obviously when you deal in those bonds and stuff, you need dealers to put up their own money, and they're not going to put up their own money in a burning fire, you know. So anyway, you know, had a rebound back here, but, you know, nothing tremendously exciting, but a little bit of a rebound. Do you think we got a lot more to go here on BlackRock?
I really don't like the looks of this. Well, I would, you know, not a lot of time I would take, you know, to analyze this, this ticker, but possibly if it trades over 172, possibly it can start pushing a little bit higher. I don't like the fact that we have a lot of selling pressure at this point into the 170. We got rejected once, the second time, the third time, and today we're having this inside day. Today, this inside day is going to be a little bit of, I would say I think it's going to give us a little bit of clue as to as to the next directional bias. Possibly it can continue in a range. I think if it's going to pull back, it's going to go to 444, 70 something, 70 or around this area. But if it breaks over 470, 473, it's going to go higher. So I never trade BLK.
Yeah, I think you're gravitating to more of the higher beta stocks as opposed to like tech and things like that, rather than something like BlackRock, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's get one more in here, and then we're going to ask you a couple of your own ideas. And this one's Tesla. So obviously, a lot of people are interested in it, and it's been all over the place big time. And I don't know, $1,000 down to $400, back up to $700. This sounds like something that trades, huh?
This is a crazy stock. I don't trade Tesla, and I don't really like to trade these kind of really high price point stocks into the $700 or so. Because I don't do options. But definitely from the technical standpoint, again, it's exactly what I was saying. Like once you get a close above the 50 SMA, you know, you're pretty much expecting the price to hover higher. Today, gap up. I would say tomorrow, watch this candle from the daily perspective. If it breaks 690, it's going to go back down to 655. But if it's going to start printing an inside candle going into, so there are three options. First of all, you know, if it breaks the low, then you can expect a pullback into the 50 SMA. And then at this point, look to see if it holds. And if it holds, then look for a continuation back up for a reversal pattern. If it trades above the high, then look again for a continuation and expect a continuation higher, at least into the 800s. But if it's going to have, this is option 3. leg into trades. And they're like, I call them like little sandwiches. So if the next day you're going to have a green day that is going to trade above, definitely we're going to start having continuation higher. But if it breaks below, then short it. And you can have like really tight parameters because your parameter is going to be dictated by a bar versus a setup with a pivot high and a pivot low.
Yeah, the good thing about the audience speaking to you is they could bring any stock to you that they own, and you could do an analysis on it in addition to the ones that you suggest. So that's a pretty good combination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to just kill the rest of the list here, or and then the people can contact you for your own specific ideas, and then at least we can get through these names? Or did you have something specific that you really wanted to share before the end?
I don't really have, a lot of things that I want to add to the list because this list was
Pretty good.
exactly what I was watching.
Exactly. Okay, so let's keep it up here so we can finish up the list because there's still quite a number here. The next one is old Jack Dorsey's deal over at Square SQ. And they did a great thing and gave like $1 billion to help people, which is a nice thing to hear. And that giving is coming back to him a little bit here with regards to the rally. And what do you think here about Square? Good move today. Good move today.
Today it had a phenomenal move.
Yeah.
And I was actually wanting to bring up another stock like SHOP today. I don't know, Jim, if you have the time to watch it. I'm pretty sure you did. It did pop up on your scanner today. It had a monster move up. But I think Square is heading into trouble area right here into the 65, even if it had this reversal higher today, and it had obviously not a reversal, but a continuation. Sorry about that.
Right.
But it's still into resistance. And my issue was with this prior price action. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So my issue was with this prior price action that we had to the left. It escaped above that, but it's still trading below the 200 and the 50 simple moving average. So to me, it's still having some trouble area here. And I think that now the stock is trading into target area. So we shouldn't be talking about reinitiation of new trades. Because in fact, everything that started a couple of weeks ago, and it's just trading chaotically higher without any kind of setup forming from a smaller time frame. So if you were like really aggressive, and I think this was one of the biggest advantages of day traders because they're daily into the market, and day traders had the upper hand because they saw they saw the stock, they saw the possibility of a smaller time frame buy or sell, depending on what they were trading. But obviously for the buy, the opportunity was the buy right now. And they literally, if they closed strong, they left their shares in, and that continued higher. But it was very hard as a swing trader to try to get in on, or if you're just trading, the stock per se, you had really elevated risk levels and everything. But Square to me has achieved target right now, and it's reaching a decision point.
Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of your charts have got gaps, and people should know that a lot of times the markets will reverse and fill in their gaps. And there is one more gap left to be filled up around 70, and that would maybe be the area where it would be the final stop on this initial move.
The final hurrah.
Yeah, well, at least on the initial move, because obviously, you come a long way here. But, a lot of these stocks do have these gaps, and I'm noticing that they are trying to fill them. And that happens quite often, and sometimes that's not a bad target price. In other words, the original target would be right above 50 because there was a gap, and then the next one was right around 60, and there was a gap. They've gotten filled, and then there's the last of the Mohegans here between 68 and 70 or whatever. And maybe on a Wednesday here with a good push, it could get up there, and maybe that might be it for the short run, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Next guy up is Roku, which seems to love the 100 number. And let's see how it's doing today, because I know it ran up towards that 100, 105 area. Did it get to go through it?
All right. So this is another name that I had on my list. Yeah. This was another name that I had on my list. And again, it just skyrocketed, especially today. So this is what I'm talking about. Okay, let me just go back to the daily. This is what I'm talking about. So today, really nice tap into this 50 SMA, and then boom, back up, leaving a nice tail behind and closing above the 50 SMA. Tomorrow, if it trades over this 109, it could still start pushing a little bit higher, at least into the 115 or so.
Okay, next guy up is WM.
WM.
Which is waste management, not
Waste
exactly
management.
not exactly a tech stock, but you know, what do you
No,
got?
I haven't traded this. I haven't traded this stock in such a long time. Like really, such a long time. Well, here's the thing. I really don't like it right now. It's the technicality of the monthly chart is impressive, because on the move down, it came exactly to this 50 SMA, and then it started to push higher. So the technicality is impeccable. And what else I have noticed is that everything that has been trading incredibly technical. Even on the way down in the indices or ETFs or stocks, everything was incredibly technical. So I found that like impressive for the market. Weekly, we're still meandering within last week's price range. Definitely support into the 200 moving average, into the $90 zone, $85 to $90. Daily chart. Daily charts. Well, we could have a little sandwich here, and this is something that I mentioned earlier. And if those of you that are listening in or watching, want to know more details about it, this is exactly what I was looking at. So we're looking for a green bar. We're looking for an inside momentum right within the prior range. We don't want to break really much above or below, so this stayed within the parameters. And now if we break above the 100.5, we're going to start pushing higher.
All right, the next guy is Netflix, and as Disney's been going south, this thing's been going north a bit. We went down to 300, but we're right back here at 413 on NFLX, and it's very close to the all-time high, but did not make a new all-time high here. Went to 417 and change, and it looks like the all-time high might be more like 425 or something.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This stock, impressive move to the upside. Really nice breakout here. You can see that this whole meltdown in the market didn't really affect the stock that much. It punched below the 200 SMA, rotated, it came back up, and then it just based for a long time. 380 was the spot for the range before the whole coronavirus thing, and then once it broke above the 380, it expanded higher. And take a look at this
looks like a big head and shoulder underneath, doesn't it? A little bit of a head and shoulder.
Yeah, it does look exactly. I'm going to go just a second to the daily chart again, but take a look. This is, oh my gosh, this is 2018 highs into the 423.21 right here. And we're just double bottom, high, bottom, up, back down, double bottom. This can actually go way higher. So
no, I think one of the reasons, if you want to know a reason behind it, is one of their big problems was all the content they were spending on, and with production being closed down, they're not burning through the cash like they used to. And maybe people are seeing, hey, they've got enough product for the time being, and they certainly are not spending the money like they were burning through. So obviously their balance sheet might look better. And then, Disney has its own problems, and Comcast, was trying to be a competitor, and Apple was trying to get in there. And I guess, but the point being is these guys' biggest problem was burning through capital, and you can't burn through capital if production is closed down.
Exactly. But take a look at the extensions here. So the next stop could be around into the 450s to 470s in Netflix. This is incredible room to the upside. So I would say, yeah, any pullback is viable in Netflix. And and Jim was saying about the head and shoulders, right shoulder, head, left shoulder, and this would be the neckline, right? Is this what you're
Yep, that's what I was referring
Okay.
to.
Yeah.
All
Very
right.
nice.
We got something that they just announced that they lost 150 plane sales this
Oh,
year. So this is Boeing, and this has been all over the place. And obviously, they're in with the government now, and they got what do they got? Football fields of unsold planes, and I guess people are hoping that maybe. If the worldwide printing presses work, that people will get back on the planes, and maybe there's a future here. But what do you think?
oh my goodness. I don't know about the travel industry. I don't know
Yeah.
about planes. I mean, I'm looking at myself and I would be like very hesitant right now, even to go to a restaurant after this whole lockdown.
Yeah.
So again, I think that people are going to be very fearful and getting back on the plane. And I think that this is an industry that needs to confirm a lot of security for individuals to get back on track with everything else. Technically speaking, because like I said before, this is such a technical market. We are way into oversold area right here, and we're trading. This is a monthly chart, and we're trading right into the 200 simple moving average. This is the area where we have consolidated as well. And that's 2000 through the end of 2013, 14, 15, 16, until we took off after the election. And we came back down. So now we're back into that election breakout level. So the monthly, like I said, it's into support. How it will handle support, that will remain, that will be determined, remains to be determined on how that's going to handle. And what I like here is these stacked candles, right? So this shows that the price is still on the weekly level, trying to ascend a little bit higher, because every week has tried to make a little bit of high compared to the prior low, right? So we had another high here from that 89. I mean, I can't believe, and about a couple of weeks before this low, we were trading into the 350 and 370. It's just crazy. And then we had the push higher, and then here higher low compared to the prior one, higher low. And again, this week it's not wrapped up. We still have what's Tuesday? We have 3 more trading days. And it's still not finalized. But if we hold the other low right here, I think that if we punch over 163, we can possibly see a relief rally into the 184. And that's my thought on Boeing. From the daily still very sloppy, still needs to get over 160, even on the daily.
The stock is going to obviously have bad news. It goes from 446 down to $90. If you're looking for anything but bad news on the tape, you got to be pretty silly, because obviously you don't go from 446 to $89 on good news. Now the question is are they going out of business? Are they going to be a viable concern? And the volume that came out of the stock was so enormous that you would have to imagine that anybody who wanted to sell it has already done it. Now the only question is, can it hold that 5-year low around $100? And if it can, use that to trade against, right?
Exactly. That's going to be pretty much our gauge, because structurally wise, even on the daily chart, so we have the low, we have a higher low, and if we break over 60, we have the confirmation of the second low, and that would mean that we're changing trends onto the daily. So we can expect another push onto the weekly higher, at least into the 10 EMA on the weekly. So yeah, that would coincide with that 186 level, 186 around this area right here. So that would be our next target. But
and a 38% throwback from the 446 down to 90 takes you in towards the 240 area, and you can see there's a gap right there in the 240 area. So if things did really turn on the stock, that might be a neighborhood where it might gravitate to, and you can see that the green line is not too far from there either.
Yep.
Well, the last one here we got is also a virus stock, although not in the same vein as Teladoc and the other one. There's Clorox.
Yeah.
But people, some of the, like Jim Chanos guys, do the short selling. They're pretty much warning against running into the virus stocks, which would be, the Teladoc and the other one we were talking about, Zoom, and then CLX. Is another one here. So do you think it's a little bit ahead of itself, or obviously it looks like it's pretty got great momentum?
I don't think so. I think we, by the end of this coronavirus, we're all going to be germaphobes.
Yeah, that might make
And
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that everybody's going to look more and more to, towards Clorox wipes, Clorox bleach, etc. So I
Yeah.
think this company is still getting started. You know what? I really wanted to get a little piece of it as it was going higher, but it was so volatile and it was so insane. I mean, take a look at only this bar, and this is a 1 day range from 176 all the way to 205. This is insane the way it was trading, and then it went back down. Take a look at it, went a little bit higher here into the 214 and then back down, and then it calmed down a little bit. I never traded it. I had my eyes on it. I really wanted to get a piece of it. I couldn't. It was too volatile. It was too crazy, and I'm not a gambler in the market, but it was definitely a great a great stock. And I think that moving forward, this can only go higher. I think everybody's going to start looking more and more into their products.
Yeah. The cleanliness phase is going to have legs.
And exactly. And I don't think like only from the consumer side, but institutional side, right? So everybody's
Right.
going to start, disinfecting schools, hospitals. So it's going to be, I think it's only going to go higher from here.
Right. Okay, we're at the top of the hour, Anka, so I think it's a great time to reintroduce yourself to the newcomers, and also, again, how do you get a hold of yourself, and then, of course, any special offers you have. This would be a great time to cover them as well.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having me again. So if those of you guys that I day trade futures, so we do have a futures trading room that I run. I only trade the first 2 hours of the morning, the most volatile, and when we're getting the overlap of the London session with the New York trading session. So if you would like to stop by and say hi, we have a 1 day trial on our website, which is $25. We trade futures, day trade, and we also have some swing trading ideas there. We have a swing trading service. We do offer trading education for futures. We have an upcoming course in the last week of May, and it's May 27th, all the way, it's May 25th through May 29th. It is followed by a trading lab. So we have a lot of perks that are going on with that course. So if you're interested in that, shoot us an email at info@tradeoutloud.com. We're going to send you more information about it. Visit our website. I think the best thing to do is just visit our website. And then if you see something that you like and have more information, just shoot me an email at info@tradeoutloud.com. So thanks so much.
Great. You bet, Anka. And I'm Jim with optionprofessor.com. We have a weekly market update that we send out, and we are in the process of setting up a twice a week update on what's going on in the market. So if you'd like to find out what I'm up to as far as what I'm seeing, simply email us at optionprofessor@gmail.com, and we'll put you in the queue to get the free weekly update. David, right now we're back to you. And again, Anka, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Jim, for having me, and thank you, David. But before I leave, can I please add just one more thing?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to host, David and I are going to host Synergy Traders. It's going to be a live trading event. It's going to be May 19th, 20th, and 21st. We're going to have 3 full days of trading education for you guys. The first day on the 19th, we're going to talk only about stocks. And guess what? A surprise visit from one of the trading psychologists. We have 3 trading psychology experts that are going to be here with us, because what is trading without trading psychology, right? We have to have the right mindset to trade. So the first day, May 19th, is dedicated to stocks. May 20th is dedicated to Forex trading. And on the 21st is dedicated towards futures trading. So it's going to be like 3 full days, Synergy Traders. So Timing Research, David is making this possible. So I'm very excited about this event.
Stocks and options on that.
Stocks and options. I'm sorry. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, David.
And so it'll be a mix of both. But yeah, stocks and options on Tuesday, Forex on Wednesday, and futures on Thursday. And of course, Jim, the option professor, will be doing a presentation, and Anka, you'll be doing a futures presentation. But also, so far I have John Thomas, Norman Hallett, George Papazov, Simon Klein, Hema Reddy, and Sean McLachlan scheduled. So, but we're planning to have possibly as many as 30 different presentations that during those 3 days. So be sure to mark your calendar for that.
All right, and I see that there were some questions here, about crude oil, et cetera, et cetera. Shoot me an email at info@tradeout.com, and I'll send you an explanation. And okay, all right, thanks, David.
Okay, thank you guys. We'll see you later.
All right,
Thank you.
And just want to thank my guests again for today: Anka Metcalf of TradeOutLoud.com and Jim, the Option Professor at OptionProfessor.com. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.